Hey, it's me, your interior designer. I know you've been spending a lot of time inside your own apartment or home, and you're trying to figure out what is the best way to decorate your space. Well, I think that the best way is actually via sound waves and making sure that reverberating throughout the walls of your home are episodes of this podcast. Before we continue my first ever journey through the Harry Potter series, just a few quick announcements. First, this is the first episode of Potterless in February, meaning that it is donation time here at Potterless. Each month, we take $1 for each member of our team over at patreon.com/Potterless and donate it to a different charity. At the time of recording, we have 792 patrons, meaning that we will be donating $792 to True Colors United. So True Colors United mission is to create innovative solutions to youth homelessness that focus on the unique experiences of LGBTQ young people. In the US right now, 4.2 million youth experience homelessness each year, and LGBTQ youth are 120% more likely to experience it than someone that is not a member of the LGBTQ community. So True Colors United does a lot of great work. I chose this charity because homelessness in the winter is always an extra issue. As I'm recording this right now, New York is having a giant snowstorm, so the fact that True Colors United is working to house people is fantastic, and I also chose them because this episode and the two following it will be about Fantastic Beasts and where to find them, as I have done for J.K. Rowling stuff in the past. For each episode of Potterless that I do covering anything that J.K. Rowling actively had a hand in, I will be donating a portion of the ad sales from the episode to a different LGBTQ charity, so figured this charity made sense for February's charity of the month, made sense for the episodes, so in addition to the Patreon donation, I will also be taking a portion of the ad reads on this episode and the next two and donating them to True Colors United as well. If you want to learn more about this wonderful organization, you can go to truecolorsunited.org. And speaking of that team over at patreon.com/Potterless, we have new members that joined the team recently, helping to keep the show going. So shout out to Michael Bohan, Samuel Meyerhofer, Helen C.A., and Lex Reichus. Also shout out to Kathleen Bissett, who upgraded their pledge. And of course, as always, a huge shout out to our producer level patrons: Vicky, Christine, Aaron, Clow, Marchismo, Juan, Rosemary, Maria, Lisa, Audra, Eleanor, Nikita, Rachel, Zachary, Alex, John, Noel, Claire, Rory, Veronica, Lotta, Noah, Tracy, Colleen, Jennifer, Justin, Jacob, Maya, Mark, Polly, Zena, Hardlin, Noelia, Nikki, Kine, Amanda, Kafir, Sarah, Marta, Maya, Floor, Georgia, Skyla, Edel, Professor Threat, Ellie, Michael, Kelly, Carrie, Connie, Jen, Nedry, Will, Marcos, Marique, Ashton, Brittany, Phelan, the Meadows family, Ginny, Heather, Kevin, Jarl, Peta, Jan, Callahan, Leah, Bella, Melanie, Becca, Rees, Adam, Joseph, Madison, Tonks, Sabrina, Sophia, Farzan, Melanie, Matt, Okamahime, Boney Pony, Kelsey, Ricky, Taylor, Megan, Riley, Laurel, Erica, Miranda, Kendra, Natanya, Yogan, Darcy, Sandra, Craig, Leor, Demi, Michelle, Henrique, Casey, Megan, Sat, Jack, Sophia, Dane, Robin, Chick, Mermaid, Daddykins, Ilaria, Gregory, Kawkaw, Nina, Ribbon, Brittany, Gavin, Jack, Serenity, Emily, Haley, Sabrina, Jenna, Laura, Gila, Eileen, Annette, Kirsten, Hufflepuff, Brett, Mary, Artemis, Trans People are People, Samantha, Nina, Tatiana, Taylor, Karis, Vomit Spiders, Tony, Joe, Punkfish, Wire Warrior, Catherine, Joe, and Can't I Potter? Who never, when they're trying to sneak around anywhere and be extra quiet, accidentally stumble into something and make way more noise than they would have if they would have just walked normally. If you want to be like one of these amazing patrons and get access to bonus episodes, director's commentary, monthly live streams, and more, you can head on over to patreon.com/Potterless. But without further ado, let's get into episode 162 of Potterless, the first of three covering Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the movie guest starring Lizzie Sudlow. Hello, Internet, and welcome back to another episode of Potterless, the tale of a 28-year-old man who never read the Harry Potter series as a kid. He read them as an adult, and he did see a film franchise after he started the podcast about it, but everyone assured him there would be no spoilers, and I really don't think there were any. My name is Mike Schubert, I'm Necroman, and I'm here joined today to talk about that movie that I just mentioned, the first Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them film, and I am joined today by resident expert on all things beast related, because I have one of the hosts your landscaper. I know you're trying to decide exactly how you should make this backyard perfect.
Well, it's going good. How are you?
Hey, it's me, your landscaper. I know you're trying to pick exactly what makes the most sense for your garden, your backyard. You want to make everything look perfect. But instead of going with plants or trees, how about you go with ambiance? And in the background there are your yards.
And you know what?
And in the background there are your
for the first time in a long time, I actually feel kind of good.
Yeah, it feels a little light. Feels a little lighter.
Yeah,
you just have a little bit of a pep in your step.
Yeah. So perfect pep to have as we talk about what should have just been a fun, wonderful, carefree franchise. In its name, it should just be about beasts that are fantastic and where they're located. But instead, it's all about grumpy children, and then scandals across the board with everyone involved in at least the second movie.
I gotta say, it's really hard to be a fan of this series.
Oh, yeah.
It's really hard.
How is it for you specifically, at least for me with just being general Harry Potter? I can talk about fan-made stuff. We just did a whole bunch of episodes about Puffs, and that was nice. Not only are you the host of a podcast that's about Harry Potter, but it's specifically about Fantastic Beasts, which is just an extra layer. How's that been?
Yeah. When we first found out that Fantastic Beasts was going to be a thing, I was actually at a Harry Potter convention when we found out that Eddie Redmayne was cast as Newt. And I was actually with two of the people. One is a host today, and one was one of our leading producers when we first started. And all three of us were together when we found out it was Eddie Redmayne. And we were like, the Danish girl guy? Really? I mean, okay, I guess we'll see how that goes. And we would have never expected that, almost 5+ years later, we're still dealing with this franchise, because it was only supposed to be 3 films to start.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
When did it jump from 3 to 5? I always thought it was 5 from the beginning.
It was in the middle of promotion for 1, and the cast did not know it was going to be 5.
Oh, that's cool.
So they were on stage promoting the first film at an event. I believe it was in London, and that lady comes out.
That lady, that's good. That's a good one.
That lady comes out and she's like, guess what? It's not 3 films. And the cast looks stone white. They're like, excuse me, what did you say? And then us back in America, we were like, what did you say? And she's like, it's 5. And our staff was just like, what do you mean 5? We're going to be on this thing forever. Oh no, what did we sign up for? What is this? The first film is wonderful, and we were all such big hype fans, all on the hype train, loved every single second of it. And then as we just continue to go on, there are just things that continue to happen that are so discouraging and so disappointing, because I would just like to enjoy these beasts and my mooncalves and my nifflers and live in my picture-perfect world down in Newt's suitcase, taking care of all these little animals and cute creatures. But there's everything else going on, and it really sours it, because this should have been really fun. It should have been a really fun franchise, and there's a lot of people that work on these franchises, and the things that people are doing are impacting the chance of all these people's livelihoods and things like that. And we just want to enjoy it, but we also know that you really have to look critically at everything, because if you're not, then you're not being fair to the source material and to what's going on, and you just have to be objective. So we try to have fun where we can, but we also are very acknowledgeable that there's a lot that's not great. And as long as we're head on and we discuss it in a way that's fair and still thought-provoking, we can still go on and be like, yes, we are a Fantastic Beasts podcast, and that's a ton of fun, because we look at all aspects of it. It's not perfect. It's definitely not perfect. It might not even be good at this point, but we're still here, and we can still respect where we came from.
That's good. And I'm glad you got it all out there, because I am also in a weird position of feeling like I should cover this stuff on the podcast for the posterity, and I don't even know what the word is, but to feel like I checked all of the boxes of going through the series. This podcast is advertised as a grown man going through the Harry Potter series, and this is a canonical addition to it. So I will be going through these more quickly. It's not going to be 6 episodes like we did about Puffs, plus 3 more about the interviews, et cetera, et cetera. It's going to be different in that coverage. We're going to be going through much faster. But I did feel like, for doing what the show has set out to do, I ought to cover it. And of course, this is all painted with the brush of not supporting J.K. Rowling, not supporting her future endeavors. We're recording this in a time when we just had a very fun day yesterday, where someone at the Hollywood Reporter decided that a person mentioning they have had half of a maybe meeting means the headline is HBO is making a Harry Potter series. And then everyone from HBO is like, no, we're not. We just had a meeting about it once.
I'm getting tagged on Facebook, and they're like, what does it mean? And I'm like, it means I'm exhausted. That's what it means. I don't like it.
And I'm in a weird position where I'm actively rooting against new Harry Potter things, because I don't want any more good things or money or influence or anything going towards J.K. Rowling. It's very difficult. So all of that is painted heavily over these episodes. When we get to Crimes of Grindelwald, it's going to be a big dunk fest. So that'll be great. Like I did with other episodes I've done recently, a portion of the ad sales is going to be going to trans charities.
Good.
If you skipped the intro for this episode, go back to the intro so you can find out what charity we're supporting. So trying to do the best, but let's get into it and talk about this movie. Woo! So I found it so funny that going back and whatever people's expectations were, I don't know if people were anticipating that it was going to be mostly about the beasts, or if people knew going into it, like, no, it's not mainly about the beasts. They're just kind of there. But the first scene is just 12 people just getting fucking murdered.
I know. It's very confusing.
Like, the first scene is like classic zoom in on the logo like we do for every Harry Potter movie, and it's dark and ominous, which sure. But then the first thing that happens is a bunch of people just disintegrate. It's like, oh, okay, this is the like, it's gritty.
Yeah, they were like, this is Harry Potter at night. Like, this is Harry Potter grown up. Turn it up. You thought it was bad when we killed a couple of children in that last film? Nah, now we're doing adults mass murder style. First 10 seconds, wipe them out. Who needs them? We don't. Set the scene. Let's go.
Oh my goodness. So after a bunch of people just get vanished like Voldemort at the end of movie 8, you have a series of exposition-y type newspapers showing us and reminding us what time period this is set in. You get an ad for Giggle Water, which is what they call alcohol. You've got this whole thing about soccer versus Quidditch to remind us that these take place in America. And then basically the ending of all the newspapers is like, Grindelwald is bad. Grindelwald is bad. Also, muggles and wizards aren't getting along. Oh, and also Grindelwald is bad. Title entrance thing over.
It was so fun rewatching because it was like, where is Grindelwald? Who is Grindelwald? And I had like a Marvel Cinematic Universe moment where in my head I went, what is Grindelwald? Apparently this was Mina Lima's favorite part to work on, was just doing all these newspapers, because they were like, we just need the newspapers. Here are the key elements that need to be filled in. Do whatever you want with the rest of it. Have fun. And they were like, oh, okay. So that's where a lot of that random stuff comes from. It's just Mina Lima knocking off and having fun.
Now, I definitely know who Mina Lima is, but for a listener that might not know who you're talking about, because I for sure know who that is. Who's that?
They are the people that designed all of like the art pieces for the films, from the Hogwarts letters to the Black Family Tree. All of that stuff is just them.
Okay. So the first scene we see after this is basically an Ellis Island scene with Newt. And Newt has his suitcase, which of course is already making noise and rattling around. And Newt pulls a latch on it for like a muggle trick, so that when you open it, it just has like clothes and a watch and a magnifying glass or whatever. And then after this scene, we have a scene of New York detectives looking at an exploded, just completely wrecked house. And one of the funniest things is there's a background actor at one point who, and I saved the clip of it, so I'll put it in, but there's a guy that goes, someone ought to do something about it. It's everywhere, this thing.
Someone ought to do something about it. It's everywhere, this thing. It's out of control.
This is New York.
Yeah. Now, as someone that grew up in New Jersey, lives in New York, I have been accused many, many times of being too America-centric on this podcast, which is valid. But now I'm starting to understand how British people could get annoyed of Americans trying to do a British accent, or Americans trying to say this is what London is like. I'm now seeing the reverse of British people trying to make New York, because right away it's like, hey, I'm walking here. And then a little bit later, Tina's just eating a giant fucking hot dog.
You gotta love the hot dog.
Lunch.
Gotta love the hot dog.
Oh my God, it's just so ridiculous. So I love that right off the top, like some of these New York accents that these people are bringing to the table are powerful.
They were like, no Americans in these Harry Potter movies. However, we're going to do an entire film in America, and we are really going to Americanize this thing. We're going to get Jon Voight. We are really going to go for it here.
I legitimately forgot Jon Voight was in the film. Before watching it this time, a couple months ago, Johnny and I, my best friend and best man at my wedding, we watched it to make a bonus episode where we do a thing called Maturity Corner, where we do like a Riff Tracks-esque Mystery Science Theater director's commentary type thing, making fun of it. And we were both watching it. It was the first time we watched it since it came out, when we saw it together in the theaters. And when Jon Voight came up, we were like, what the fuck? Jon Voight is in this? And we watched that, I think, about a week before Jon Voight started posting all of his weird Trumpy videos. So it was very different to go from happy, oh my God, Jon Voight is in this movie, to now when I was watching it for the second rewatch in preparation, I was like, oh no, Jon Voight's in it. Because I forgot again. Like, he has no business being in this film. Not an important role, not an important character. He's barely in it. It was probably the dollars spent to screen time / importance has to be off the charts. Like a terrible investment.
If you think about the end of the film and what happens to him, it almost makes it better. It just makes you laugh. You're just like, ah.
See, I, for reference, have only watched the first half because we're only talking about the first half, and I'm trying to stay as
good. Okay.
Non-spoilery Mike Schubert as possible. I totally forget that Jon Voight comes back. I have no idea.
When you get there, you'll be like, yes, this is good. This is good.
Good. I mean, I'm assuming that he and all of his very mean newspaper cronies are going to die because they unnecessarily make fun of Credence, but we'll get there. So, anyway, New Yorker guy says, somebody gotta do something about this. And then Colin Farrell shows up, and it just makes me so sad. All Johnny Depp stuff aside. Why would you ever replace Colin Farrell?
That is what we said the entire time.
Like, what are we doing?
Like, how did we let him go? Why? Do we not realize how blessed we were to have Colin effing Farrell? We were so lucky. We let something good, so good. We just let it go.
Like, I don't know who was in the writer's room. Maybe it was something where Colin Farrell decided, I only want to be in one movie, so they decided to do this. Maybe there was a reason for it. And I will not be revisiting the Johnny Depp stuff anymore. I've done it way too many times in this podcast. All of Johnny Depp stuff aside, all of his extracurricular activity and him and Amber Heard stuff aside, this may be a hot take, but I don't think he's that good, and he has not been in a good movie since, like, the second Pirates of the Caribbean. Like, what has Johnny Depp done, just from an acting perspective, to give him this much hype to where Johnny Depp Twitter bots harass me on Twitter quite regularly? I couldn't understand. You. Like, absolutely iconic as Jack Sparrow. I get it. Absolutely iconic as Edward Scissorhands. I get it. He hasn't done, like, shit.
No. No.
And Colin Farrell's great.
When everything started, we were like, so can we get Colin Farrell back? Is that what this means?
Yeah, it would have been so
simple. Do we
simple.
just bring him back? Can we just get him back? Please.
And then even what they did with this recent recasting where Mads Mikkelsen is now taking over as Grindelwald, when they announced that, I was like, that would have been great from day one. Like, Mads Mikkelsen is the perfect villain, but also I've seen interviews and different Twitter videos and stuff. Seems like just a genuinely cool guy and very much I don't give a fuck what people think of me guy. And I appreciate that a whole lot. So yeah, I don't know why you don't just stick with Colin Farrell. But I'm glad he's in this one. His hair is fantastic.
The coat.
It's just great. The coat.
The coats.
His character does feel a bit too like, well, this film franchise needs a Snape, so here he is.
Yeah, big Snape energy.
It's very big, like, we're not going to be clear about whether or not he's a good guy or a bad guy. You're going to have to find out. He's basically just like alternate Snape.
Just going to be very uncomfortable the entire time. And you're like, I don't know how I feel about this. I don't know if I like it. I don't know if I hate it. I'm really not sure. I'm going to write it out.
So he shows up on the scene. He's checking out this destroyed house, and then things get worse. You get some sort of rumbling where it almost looks like a tremor from the Kevin Bacon movie, just like going through the town and destroying stuff. You get first-person view of it, which is strange. They aren't very clear about what it is, but the road gets even more destroyed, and Colin Farrell seems very interested.
Yes.
So then we have Newt approaching a woman soapboxing for the second Salemers. So never good when your group is named after a group of bad people, and then you're like, we're the next these guys.
My girl, Mary Lou. Not really my girl, but just, Mary Lou.
Of course, right after Newt shows up in the crowd, we see Tina eating a comically ridiculous-looking hot dog because we're in New York and
this is what it is. Get your lunch.
And you know what? I was not alive in 1920s New York. Perhaps it was very common to be eating a hot dog, but I just can only assume that this would be the equivalent of if in Harry Potter they show up and Vernon Dursley's eating solely fish and chips right in front of the camera's face. So then what happens, and this is a recurring theme throughout the film, is the Niffler in Newt's suitcase escapes. This caused Kelly, my wife, when we were watching this at the time, to go, why doesn't he get a strap around his suitcase? I feel like this whole movie just wouldn't exist if the man just owned a leather strap.
Like the little leash that you put on your kids, like those parents that do that.
Just something to keep it shut, because it really feels like faulty locks are a big reason for majority of the shenanigans that Newt finds himself in this film.
I love that Niffler.
The Niffler's great.
We named him Pastries, and we've never been able to unname him. We've spoken to Dan Fogler, who played Jacob, a couple of times, and every single time we're like, push for pastries. Push, push, push. And he's like, I'm not going to do that. And we're like, but you could. The option's right there. Doesn't have a name.
He also seems like a great human.
He is.
I have been in the same room as him a couple of different times at LeakyCons, but he's usually very busy in that he is on panels all of the time, because when you get a big name, that's what happens.
He
seems like a very nice dude.
Has the most energy. To be in a room with him, you're like, woo, I just drank 5 coffees. And then you remember that he's a Tony Award winner.
Oh.
And you're just like, whoa.
I did not know that.
Yeah, he won a Tony for the 25th annual Putnam's County Spelling Bee.
Such a great play.
Yeah, he was the guy that spells with his foot.
Oh, such a great role.
But he's just a genuinely good person. And for someone who was actually like born in New York, grew up in Brooklyn, has a family member who actually ran a pastry shop, all this stuff, like it's just
that's so good.
Beautiful that this happened to him. So big Jacob fan.
Yeah, what's a shame about the films, and when you look at the people who have gotten into bad press outside of the films, if you just had a movie with Dan Fogler, Eddie Redmayne, and CGI beasts, it would be in such a better world. Obviously, it should be written by a different person.
Yes.
But Ezra Miller got into some crap. Johnny Depp got into crap. Like, if we just had Dan Fogler, Eddie Redmayne, and CGI beasts, it'd be a better situation.
Sign me up. Just sign me up.
So the Niffler gets away. It goes into a bank. Newt chases it into the bank. While in the bank, he sits next to Jacob Kowalski. And Jacob Kowalski has gone to the bank to try to get a loan to start a bakery. Newt awkwardly says that he's there for the same reason. I love Jacob being very
he's like,
confused and nervous that he's got competition.
He's like, what's the chance of this shit?
So then when Newt goes to chase after the Niffler, he leaves behind an egg, and Jacob takes the egg and tries to give it back to Newt, but then he is called in for his loan meeting with the loan person, Mr. Bingley. And of course, the secretary is like, Mr. Kowalski, Mr. Bingley's ready for your appointment. I'm like, oh my God. So he goes in. It's the classic every person that doesn't have a lot of money asking for a loan scene that's in every film ever.
Gestures at baked goods. What do you have for collateral? If you just eat the scone, monsieur, everything would be perfect.
And like, real talk, those pastries look delicious.
They look
for this
so
person
good.
to be the curmudgeon upon curmudgeons and not even try one. I don't know enough about the 1920s world, but if it's anything like the movies, there were 2 types of jobs in the 1920s, and it was giving out loans and trying to get loans so that you could start your passion project. And there was no in between.
And what's fun about Jacob is that he had a completely different character story. That when he was going for this loan, it was kind of like his last chance with his fiance. He originally had a fiance in the film. And when he leaves the bank unsuccessful, the girl literally leaves him because she's like, there's no future here.
Wow.
And he's just completely heartbroken. So it's just so interesting on what they decided to like keep and choose and all that stuff. But I always think about how they could have gone that route. I'm like, my poor little heartbroken Jacob cutie pie.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be so much sadness right in the beginning.
I know.
And I kind of like that he doesn't have that, because then him falling in love with Queenie, who is good in this movie, and then decides in the second movie, what if I'm racist now? It makes that love, at least in this film, a little more pure, and now like he's just rebounding.
What if I, as a Jewish person, decided to go against everything for love? This is for love.
Well, it's not even for love. I mean, we'll get into this when I get into the second movie, but Queenie's whole thing is like, people were kind of mean to me. I'm going to join the cult. Like, oh my God. It's Wild. So Jacob does not get the loan. He leaves. The egg starts to hatch. And he gets Newt's attention, and Newt sees that the egg is hatching. So Newt basically just says, hey, yo, fuck the statute of secrecy, and teleports Jacob over to him, and then they apparate into another room. They watch it hatch. Of course, Tina sees this, and then the Niffler slips into the vault. They go towards the vault. All you have to do to unlock the vault is Alohomora, which I get that this is a muggle lock, but I need to know how strong Alohomora is, because I feel like in some cases it can open whatever the hell it wants to, and then in other cases it's defined as not a very strong lock opening spell. But this could just be a wizard versus muggle thing, but I feel like it should be harder than him just being like, oh, Alohomora, the safe.
Well, they're 1920s locks. I have no freaking clue.
Oh, man.
Listen, if Jacob had just, like, scooped up all that coin that the Niffler had just dropped, he would have had his bakery. It would have been game over.
Yeah.
He would have walked away scot-free.
And I did read the Fantastic Beasts book, and we covered it on the podcast here. The Niffler, it does say the Niffler loves shiny objects, and it wants to take coins, etc. I don't remember the page where it said the Niffler can defy the laws of gravity and physics and everything if money is involved, because the Niffler, apparently, if money is on the other side of it, becomes a shapeshifter, in that they can squeeze through vaults and get stuck in glass and can fly. Like, they can do whatever the hell they want as long as money is on the other end of their intention.
Ooh, shiny mode activated.
So, of course, Mr. Bingley, why is Mr. Bingley in the vault room? He has no business being here. Mr. Bingley, of course, sees this, rings the alarm. Newt hits him with Petrificus Totalis, and then apparates Jacob and the Niffler out of there before the cops can arrest them. And then Newt is off in a little side area outside the bank, and he's going to try to do a little mind erase spell on Jacob, but very resourcefully, Jacob hits him in the face with a briefcase. Just a nice little briefcase uppercut and runaway combo from Jacob. And I don't know if I liked Jacob as much going in. I think I did like Jacob the first time I saw it. I thought the ending thing where they make him walk into the rain was very silly and nonsensical. So I think my frustrations around Jacob were how he was treated. But upon this rewatch, I just wanted it to be only about him. So Tina then comes up and confronts Newt and, of course, scolds him like the grumpy, angry mom that she is. And then we get this big exposition dump via Tina of Makusa and no madges and all of this stuff, and the difference between the British words and the English words. She shows her ID card. Makusa makes no sense. It should be Mikyusa.
It makes
or something.
No,
It's nothing.
No. We first heard about it, we went, excuse me, madam. No. Hereby reject this decree. Thank you very much. And then they said no match, and we went,
Yeah, no match is just... muggle is a silly word. No-maj somehow is sillier.
Lazier.
Because, that's what it is. At least muggle is the invention of a word, but no-maj just, yes, no magic. And let's change the G to a J because otherwise it'll look like no mag. So... No-maj. Hooray. I guess it kind of sounds like nomad? I don't know. The one thing I do approve of and appreciate of Makusa, MickUSA, whatever you want to call them, they operate out of the Woolworth building, which is a building in New York that I only know about because Kelly's previous architecture employer, the firm she used to work with, they worked out of that building. So every time I would go in and say hello to her or visit her or meet her there or whatever, I could feel a little bit of Harry Potter stuff. And before that felt nice and cool. But now with this plus Kelly not working for them anymore, I hate the Woolworth building. It's the worst building.
Pre-COVID, I worked next to the Woolworth building. So I got to pass it every day. So it was always very fun to be like, if I just went a few doors down, I could go right into MacUSA.
I mean, it is a pretty building. It does have a very pretty doorway that they keep mostly intact. And when they show you inside of it, I don't think... I would have to go back to the Woolworth building, but I think what they show you is like a composition of two different angles. Like, I don't think that directly inside from the spinning glass doors that they show you is the part where you can see the text Woolworth building. I think they like combine two things. And then, of course, once CGI comes into play, it looks nothing like the actual Woolworth building. But cool old building. You could check it out, but there's nothing to do there. so you should do something else.
Yeah.
Anyone future listening doing something in New York, don't feel like you should go to the Woolworth building. I mean, it's very close if you're going to walk across the Brooklyn Bridge, I guess, or if you're going to World Trade and the Oculus and all that. So it's kind of close to there, but like, you're not missing out. It is just a building.
And it's very much an opportunity to stand there, take the picture, and go, huh. And that's it. And move on with your day. And that's the end of it.
Now, here's something that happened when they get into the building that made me a bit confused. And the timing of this is interesting because just posted an episode about anti-Semitism in the series and how goblins are treated. They have elevator goblins, which feels like it's more than just, oh, the goblins, they get the money jobs because that's how goblins work, blah, blah, blah. But now we're putting goblins into inherently lesser roles. And this felt worse. Right?
It's not a great look.
Yeah.
That, and then you've got the wand polish elves.
Right. You basically have
you're
goblins
like your shoe shine, but they're wands.
Inherently, these are the types of jobs back in the day, especially back in the 1920s, that you would give to not white men.
Yes.
Like, so it feels very much like, right, the goblins, they have the lower status jobs. And it's just, this movie came out in 2016. What would have been really cool is if goblins are just like other coworkers.
Right.
And they just have a bunch of different jobs. But at least from what we see, shoe shiner, elevator dude, and that's it.
That's it.
Bad luck.
Not a good look.
Agreed, past Mike and past Lizzie. That is a bad look. But you know who never has a bad look? Me, editing Mike. And you know it's never a bad decision? Taking a little bit of a break from the podcast to do a little segment that we like to call Wingardium Adridosa. Today's episode of Potterless is brought to you by Warby Parker. Let's say hypothetically that you are Newt Scamander and you are putting together a textbook and you're doing a lot of different research. You're reading a bunch. Maybe your eyes are starting to hurt from all this reading. You could use some new glasses. Where could you get new glasses? Warby Parker. Warby Parker is committed to providing exceptional vision care online and in stores, offering eyeglasses, sunglasses, eye exams, and contact lenses. Glasses start at $95, including prescription lenses, and sunglasses, progressives, and blue light lenses are all also available. Now, I'm fortunate enough to have good enough vision where I do not need glasses, but you know who does not have perfect vision? My dad, Joel P. Schubert. So we hooked him up with the entire Warby Parker experience. First, he took a very simple quiz and he was able to say the types of frames that he was looking for and then also put in the eye information that was important. But he was able to use the Warby Parker app and his iPhone to see what the different frames would look like on his face using the augmented reality feature on his camera. So even before getting the try-on kit, he was able to select exactly what frames he thought would work best. Then he got that personalized box of 5 different frames. We tried them all on together. He did a little fashion show in front of the mirror. Me, my mom, and Kelly all helped him decide which one he liked the best. And then he was able to get those glasses and he was able to add some extra features. I believe he got progressive lenses in there just to make the glasses as perfect as they could be. The glasses looked fantastic. They were really high quality glasses. The home try-on program was so simple and honestly very fun to do with the whole family. And it was just nice that he could see it on the app and then also physically try on the glasses at home before committing to buying a pair. And being able to do all of this from the safety of his own home was a huge plus. So you can be like Joel P. Schubert. You can try Warby Parker's free home try-on program. You'll order 5 pairs of glasses to try on at home for free for 5 days. There is no obligation to buy. It ships free and includes a prepaid return shipping label. So try 5 pairs on at home for free at warbyparker.com/potterless. So again, go to warbyparker.com/potterless, sign up for that try-on kit, try on those 5 free frames at home, and get the most stylish glasses as you slave away at your textbook work today.
And now you'll hear words from a few sponsors who make it feasible for me to be a full-time podcaster. Some of these ads will be read by me, others of them won't. The ones that aren't are inserted locally, so if you live internationally, don't be surprised if you hear an ad in your country's native language. And once those ads are complete, we'll get back to this episode of Potterless.
So Tina brings Newt into a meeting with the president of Mikkelsen, which for diversity casting and purposes in the movie, I think it's great. She's played by a black woman. I would love to know how 1920s American wizards defeated racism. Is that just not a wizard problem? Like they're just like, nah.
Yup. Mm-hmm.
No one has any physical ailments in the wizarding world. We also don't have racism in the wizarding world. Everyone's straight.
Seraphina Pickery deserves better. Don't know how her character ended up how it did, Carmen Eogo is wonderful. This all could have been a slam dunk. Don't know how it makes sense, but I'm on board with it. Just wish she had done something the entire time.
Yeah, that's the more frustrating thing, because this, like, honestly doesn't matter. And I'm a big fan of casting and just not caring about it. Like, the fact that everyone in Hamilton is pretty much played by non-white actors, whereas every character in Hamilton is pretty much a white person.
Correct.
Like, that's great, and nobody cares. And even if you do it in the case of the new Spider-Man movies, where they're like, yeah, Mary Jane's black, Flash is Indian, like, just do whatever, who cares? I love that type of casting. And this would have been great here too. The more frustrating part is that she's there, and she doesn't do anything. So I remember being upset at the time when J.K. Rowling's making a new film franchise, and she finally has the chance. It's 2016. We all very much care about diversity and inclusion in media at this point, and there's no more, the books were written in the late 90s, early 2000s excuse. She's got none of that. And then all the important roles are white people. And I am sure that this movie obliterates the Bechdel test. I mean, even like, it doesn't even seem like you have to try about it, but another opportunity. And I didn't realize it as much because I wasn't as in tune when the first movie was coming out. But when the second was coming out, I was in the thick of Harry Potter, making Potterless, etc. And they did all the Times Square stuff. And the billboard was 6 people deep, and they're all white.
Always.
Look, they kind of fix it in the second movie by bringing in Zoe Kravitz and some other people. But of course, Zoe Kravitz dies immediately. Like...
Oh,
and maybe that's because they can't pay Zoe Kravitz to be in more of the movie because she costs too much. But it's awfully convenient that, like, new black character. Also, new dad black character.
Once again, don't know how we deserved her. Don't know how we got lucky with that one. We just keep getting lucky and then just keep missing out.
So Tina just brings Newt into this meeting. It feels very strange that a meeting with the president, you can just walk in and be like, hey, I found this guy. Like, I just don't get how that happens. So it's with the president and Colin Farrell, and the president does this big exposition dump that Tina, we learn, has been recently demoted from her position of Auror because, I don't know, she was too bad at her job. Like the classic, there's so many like classic movie tropes in this, and it's just the classic you had to hand in your badge kind of thing. So that is all there. They make her leave, and then she takes Newt to the wand permit office, which I guess is where she works now. And they talk a little bit. We learn that Newt is writing a textbook, and he says that the reason why he's writing the textbook is because it's supposed to teach wizards why we should preserve and not kill these beasts. Now, I read the spinoff book. That is not what that spinoff book is about at all. That is a very different textbook than Newt Scamander is talking about, because the physical book that J.K. Rowling wrote is just like, here's some beasts, I guess. There's no point in the book that's like, by the way, animal conservation, blah, 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 blah. It's just like a couple bullet points about each beast. Boom, boom, boom.
Nailed it.
So Colin Farrell's character is Mr. Graves. I probably should just... No, Colin Farrell. Colin Farrell wants to see what is in Newt's briefcase, but open it, and who could have seen this coming? It's Jacob Kowalski's. There's just a bunch of baked goods.
The classic switcheroo.
Wowie, wow. Who could have seen this? And then, of course, we immediately cut to Jacob in his comically shitty New York apartment. I have lived in some bad apartments in my day, but this is just like, oh yeah, it's New York. He's got to live in something that's falling apart. And like, maybe this is what bad 1920s apartments in New York look like, but it just felt so stereotypical.
There's just no room for anything.
No.
Here's your bed. That's it.
And it doesn't even make it look like he has more than just the bed. Like, it makes it look like a bad hotel. I don't know if there's supposed to be like community bathrooms or community kitchens at the end, but from what we can see, it looks like the man has a 1-bedroom and that is it apartment.
Yeah.
So yes, Jacob is in this apartment, and of course the creatures get out of the case and just start destroying the place. And by the place, I mean the entire building. And then we cut to the red herring girl. Now you'll notice that I'm saying we cut to a lot, and it's not because I'm doing sparse note taking. It's because this movie cuts to different people all of the time, and it is so frustrating.
It's very tiring.
It's exhausting.
You have a lot of whiplash from watching this film.
Right.
Because you're like, just stick to the one thing. Please.
Every time it cuts, I have to take 5 to 10 seconds to be like, what's happening with this cat? Oh, right. This is what's happening. Like, there are so many cuts. So after this happens to Jacob, we cut to the very clear red herring girl, I'm just going to call her Luna Bagman. She is like very, very, very much so the red herring, where they set her up to be the obscurest person, but it's not. Spoiler alert, it's Credence. She is this giant red herring, and she is hopping on one foot singing an anti-witch song that talks about witches getting murdered.
So creepy.
I feel like I hadn't even reached the Ludo Bagman episodes of Potterless yet, so it wasn't like I was even looking for a red herring. But when I saw this in the movie right away, I was like, this person is way too creepy, way too over the top to be the bad guy.
But you know what? There was so much fanfare over casting this girl.
Why?
Because the way they described her, they almost made it sound like when they were casting Luna Lovegood, they were like, brand new character, gonna be around for a long time, very integral to the plot, has to be an unknown actress. And it was just this giant thing that for months we were like, what does that mean? Like, why? Why is there so much focus? And then the film came out and we were like, what a gosh dang waste of time. Like, they got us so good by hyping this up so ahead of time.
Yeah, credit to him. That's a really smart move.
When we were watching it, we were like, is she the bad person? Because going into it, we were like, she has to be the bad person, because we've only heard nothing about this character being the bad person for the entire time that they've been working on this film. When they announced the girl, everybody was like, oh my god, who is this person? And then, spoiler alert, you don't even see her in the second one. So who knows if she's coming back.
I don't think so. It feels like that is actually a really solid red herring move for them to do. Here's an actual spoiler alert for a movie I care about, Knives Out, which you can watch for free if you have Amazon Prime. If you have not seen it, go watch it, but also skip ahead a little bit because I am going to spoil it. This is a spoiler alert I actually care about. This movie's good. I'm drawing this out in case you're driving your car or something and you need to pause it because I'm going to spoil it. It's a very good movie. It's a whole whodunit. Hey, it's me, Editing Mike. If you'd like to skip the exact right amount and not miss anything, skip 22 seconds forward, starting now. When they cast Chris Evans in the movie, I was like, all right, this dude, no way could he be the villain. It's Chris Evans. That's way too obvious.
Exactly.
And then the fact that he was the villain is like brilliant.
So good.
Because I was like, no way. Like, if casting Chris Evans, like, it would be way too easy. So like they totally got me by doing
this
the
devilishly
reverse.
handsome sweater.
God, the sweater. Man. Okay, anyway, for all the people who skipped, we're back now. So she's singing this anti-witch song. She's basically in an orphanage run by the Second Salemers, is pretty much what we're led to believe is happening here.
Yeah, like she's a foster child.
Yeah. I don't know how people who are named after a group of people that persecute people for no good reason are allowed to run an orphanage, but here we are in bad guy world and Fantastic Beasts world. Then we get our first sight of Credence, and if his haircut wasn't the biggest giveaway that he's the bad guy, I don't know what is, because this dude looks like you put a bowl over his head to cut a bowl cut, but it was a broken bowl.
It just had a couple of chips, and you were like, it's fine. Still good.
That hair screams, it's actually me. And I knew it right away. I was like, it's this guy.
And you know, everything with Ezra Miller is so sad, because what a true Cinderella moment for an American actor that is such a fanboy of the universe to get cast.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He absolutely adores this franchise. And this was probably like the highlight, and maybe it still is, who knows, the highlight of his career and everything, but like, just bleh.
I know there was Ezra Miller seemingly randomly choking a fan. Was there any other bad stuff, or was it just that?
No, it's just that.
I mean, that is bad, so to say just that is bad.
Yeah, it's just very weird because it was never addressed, all of a sudden popped up, never addressed, no follow-up, and you're just like, okay, now what do I do with that? But okay, let's just... And then everything else continued to get worse in other areas. And you were like, okay, I'm just going to put that aside for right now. I'm not going to worry too much about that.
Hachi Machi. Yeah, it's not a great look.
Not a great look.
So Newt and Tina arrive at Jacob's busted apartment building. And there's a bunch of people outside. They are clamoring that this is a gas leak. So Newt goes inside the building and then just fixes the whole building and no one notices in the middle of New York City where actively a large crowd of people are outside. He just fixes the whole building.
Don't try to make it make sense.
Yeah,
please.
Even if no one was watching at this exact moment, aren't all of these people, presumably who lived in the building and left the building after it got destroyed, won't they notice when they try to go back into their building that the building is fixed? I guess maybe part of it is that Newt is oblivious and these wizards were not very good at the Statute of Secrecy, and that's like a character flaw or trait of Newt is that he's just not good at this sort of thing, but you fixed the whole building.
He's so obsessed with not getting caught that he's like, I just have to fix everything. I can't get caught, so I just have to fix it. But he's just leaving so many opportunities for people to be like, but wait a minute.
I can't get caught for having Fantastic Beasts out, so instead I'll make it very easy for me to get caught in a multitude of ways.
Well, because he's also not supposed to be in America because his paperwork was denied. So he's like, I can't get caught being in America either. That's why he took a boat to get here. And it's just why he took an American muggle boat. So he's like, I really can't get caught. So he's like, so I'm just going to fix everything, which undoubtedly brings more attention to himself. Who could have ever seen that coming?
So eventually you get to the point where Tina and Newt find Jacob in his room. They've got the case, but Jacob is knocked out. So now at this point, Tina decides that they can't obliviate Jacob anymore because he's a witness and they need him.
Because she wants to protect herself now. She's like, no. She's like, I did bring this guy. He did bring in Beast. And look, I have an American. This will make me look even better.
So again, we cut to another scene, and this is the son of the head of a big newspaper giving a tour of the newspaper office to the lady in charge of the Second Salemers. We learn her name. It is Mary Lou Barebone. Really, her last name is Barebone, which... Cool. Very believable. So Mary Lou Barebone is with this dude, and he is all excited about the possibility of writing an article and her bringing this story. So he busts into this meeting between his dad, played by Jon Voight. Wild. Just another thing to add to the cast of this film franchise being a problem. And then he has his other son, so his eldest son.
His New York politician son.
His hair is slicker. He's got a vest. He looks more put together than the younger son. And the youngest son is really trying to get Jon Voight to publish this article for free. And Jon Voight thinks something is up. So Mary Lou says, what we want is something more valuable than money. We want your influence. And she says that she wants to basically use this platform, this newspaper that is read by a lot of people, use that audience as a way to warn the masses about the danger. And this felt way too real about what J.K. Rowling thinks she is doing with Twitter, where, as I've said, the reason that it's an issue that she does this on Twitter is that she has 14 million followers, and these followers believe and take what she has to say to heart, and all this stuff about basically fear-mongering untruths on a platform that is read by many people felt way too on the nose. How did we not see this coming?
Yeah, you look back at it and you're like...
Way too real moment. So then, of course, the older brother has to do, just again, another tropey thing that no human would do, but a tropey movie villain would. Ezra Miller drops a piece of paper and he goes over to give it back to him, first calling him boy, like, boy, you dropped this, and then he goes over and hands it to him. But instead of handing him the piece of paper back, like a human, he crumbles it up into a ball and then hands it to him, and he says, here you go, freak. Put it back in the trash where you all belong. And even before this, when he's telling his brother to get out of here and they shouldn't take the story out of nowhere unnecessarily, he goes, get out of here and take the freaks with ya. Just so unnecessary movie villain bullshit that no human ever does. And just like really painting it for the audience. Hello, just in case you weren't aware, this man is the villain.
This is the big bad.
This guy, who is being very racist, is... in fact, racist. So then Tina takes Newt and a now Murtlap-bitten Jacob to her and Queenie's apartment. And shortly after meeting Queenie, we learn that she is a Legilimens, but she does reveal that she struggles with reading the minds of British people due to their accents. What? I can understand that sometimes very intense British accents can be a bit hard for us Americans to hear. I've watched a fair share of British television shows, from Lovesick to Taskmaster to Big Fat Quiz of the Year, and sometimes I don't know what they're saying. Sometimes I need some subtitle help. But what Queenie is saying here is, first off, that I guess when you read someone's thoughts, their thoughts are in their speaking accent. But like, I don't know, man. I don't like, or is a British accent's not that hard to understand.
And spoiler alert, this does not hold up come second film when they're in France. Does not hold up.
Oh, she can just read French people's thoughts.
Yes, the French, no problem. It's the Brits. Damn Brits, though.
It just felt like such a weird little pull to throw in there. So in what is actually a very pleasant scene is when she makes the food, it is so satisfying. Seeing all the magic's cool. The food she makes looks delicious, makes this big strudel. It's very pretty. And again, it just made me want these movies just to be lighthearted and fun and not so dark and brooding like they are. And I really enjoyed the whole cooking scene. And I like Queenie as a character. I think she's fun. I like her and Tina. They're very different. It sucks that everything that she does is now soured by me knowing that she becomes a racist in the second movie. But like, as a character, like, she's fun to have. And she's fun in this movie.
When they first met, I was like, you know what? That's it. I'm putting in my own headcanon. I want them to get married. I want Jacob to take Queenie's last name because wizards. I want their grandchild to be Anthony Goldstein. And then movie 2 came and I was like, throw it all in the garbage. Start over.
A question, you bring up Anthony Goldstein, our one Jewish Hogwarts student. Is he related to them? Or is it just J.K. Rowling's like Jewish character? There's only one Jewish last name. It's Goldstein.
Honestly, we have no idea. I don't think she's made up her mind yet. She'll decide.
20 years from now, she will.
Yeah. She'll be like, oh, by the way, as she does.
So then we cut to Credence meeting with Graves, Colin Farrell, in a very dark alleyway.
Very creepy.
And Graves is basically using Credence like a spy to try to find the Obscurus. That's what the whole purpose of this scene is. Graves seems convinced that it's this red herring girl, Luna Bagman, but obviously Credence is not going to say, oh, actually, it's me. So that scene ends. Then we go back again to Newt and Jacob in their room. They're not even supposed to be in the apartment. It's like a no boys allowed situation. He opens the briefcase and then just goes right into it. Jacob lets out this hilarious, he's just such a joy in this film. And then we get a joke that I was not happy with, and I don't understand how this made it into a film made in 2016. But Newt goes into his briefcase, no problem at all, basically walks down it like there's a set of stairs.
Easy peasy.
Totally chill. Jacob tries to go in, and the entire joke here is that he's too large and he gets stuck and he has to wiggle down and then he falls through and breaks or just falls down the ladder, stairs, whatever it is. And it's just like, really? We're doing a fat joke in 2016? After you have a whole book series that has been criticized rightfully so, and I don't know that I've done enough of it for fatphobia. Like those early chapters about the Dursleys are bad, really bad stuff. Yeah. And I wish I was a bit better at covering it when I was doing those early episodes of Potterless. But looking back, that stuff is bad. And Dan Fogler, I don't know if he was bigger and then lost a bunch of weight now, because he's a skinny dude now.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he put on weight for the movies or if he lost weight after the movies, but what are we doing? It's 2016 and the whole joke here is ha ha ha, he's too big to fit?
Yeah, It makes no sense, especially because like you see everything that fits in that suitcase. It's like, really? You have trouble getting something to fit in there? Yeah, okay. And when it comes to like Dan Fogler's weight, I have no idea. I know he was still working on Walking Dead, the Goldbergs, so who knows if the weight had anything to do with like those other contracts or roles and things like that. It's like, really, we have to do the whole slam on the door. Why? We don't need to do that.
It's not funny. Like, it's not funny at all. Anyone that would laugh at this, I would think less of, but just, it is not worth the backlash of putting a very clearly, because there's no other joke here.
Right.
What are we doing?
What's hilarious is watching all of his responses and interactions to being surrounded by magic and having no idea what's going on. That's the comedic gold. That's the hilariousness. The I can't fit in this suitcase, nah, that's not it.
And it's even more highlighted by exactly what you just said.
his outburst of ha when Newt first goes in is so funny. It is a great bit of acting. It's hilarious. I laughed out loud. And then immediately followed by something that is not funny and shouldn't exist. So then they're actually in the suitcase and we get the best part of the movie. It should have been the whole movie.
It's this.
And it's like 15 minutes. It should have been 5 times as long. And they're just going in the briefcase and you just go through all of the different beasts. It does start with Newt having this dragon bird-like creature that he throws in Jacob's face like it's a bad 3D gag.
Oh,
it seems very mean to someone who's like very out of their wits and confused about what's going on. It feels very cool.
We were like, oh, it's a Pokeball.
It's a yo-yo, but it's a bird.
He's like, you know what I'm going to do to this nomage that's had quite a day and has no idea what's going on and is also slightly traumatized by being attacked by an animal he knows nothing about? I'm going to throw another one right in his face, but just enough that it doesn't actually touch him. It's going to be a great moment.
So unnecessarily cruel from Newt. What are we doing here? But then we get a very wonderful, wholesome scene. You go through, you see a bunch of different creatures, many of which were covered in the books. Newt talks to the Thunderbird, which is super cool. His name is Frank. I love that he has such a boring name.
Love Frank.
And you learn that that is the real reason why Newt is here, to bring him home. Apparently, Frank was trafficked and Newt saved him. And now he's bringing him home. And I know this isn't supposed to be funny. And this could just be because this state isn't necessarily one that you would associate with this line. But he says that he's returning Frank home, quote, to the wilds of Arizona. And the way he says it is with such conviction, like the sentence he said was not buck wild. Now, all of this being said, I have been to Arizona exactly once. I went for my bachelor party / a Potterless live show. Incredible. Phoenix was an incredible city. It was gorgeous. The hikes were fantastic. It was wonderful. I loved the city. Everything was very cheap. The bar was very good that we did the live show at. I love Arizona. I think it is underrated.
Arizona's so good.
Got some fun sports teams. Lots of good stuff going on in Arizona.
The margaritas, the tacos, they're great.
Yeah,
It's all
food.
good.
Incredible food. I had some incredible spicy breakfast omelets. Just awesome stuff. I love Arizona. It's great. But there's just something about saying the wilds of Arizona that just felt, even if it's accurate, even if it's true, there's just something about that sentence as an American that tickled me so much. I don't know why, but if they said Oregon or California or some state that I just associate more with the wilds, it would have felt less funny, but just saying the wilds of Arizona, just something about it, I couldn't help but laugh.
Especially coming from a British person that probably has no idea
what
Arizona is. It's just like extra special. You're just like, that's right.
It also might just be the word wilds because I would associate Arizona with like the desert or
the dry.
Something dry. But when you say the wilds, I imagine like the Lion King.
Yes.
Just say the wilds of Arizona just feels so funny to me. So then you see a bunch of other different creatures. You see some graphorns that are very tentacly. You see the bowtruckle family, which Kelly freaked out about. She absolutely loves the bowtruckles. I did learn that On You Hop is the British opposite of Off You Pop, which are both my favorite, because he says to the bowtruckle that he wants to rejoin the family, like, oh, come on you hop. And then he doesn't want to leave, so he takes him back. Really great. You see Akami, you see mooncalves, you see those dodo teleporting things, and then you see the Obscurus, which is trapped in the clear little sphere. And then Jacob gets tempted to touch it and Newt has to snap him out of it. Of course, in classic movie fashion, we don't learn about what this thing is, but he does say it's an Obscurus, and then he whisks him out of there. Then Newt basically asks Jacob, where could I find a large beast that would want to be in plains and nature and stuff in the city? And Jacob's like, oh, it's got to be Central Park.
Right, of course.
And I do love, and this is a very accurate New York thing, Newt asks where Central Park, and he's like, where's Central Park? Like, basically with the understood doesn't say, you fucking bozo. Like, it's in the middle. Pretty accurate because Central Park is giant.
Keep walking. You'll hit it eventually. You can't miss it.
It is very hard to miss. So we get back to Credence, and he's inside the orphanage. His mom asks Credence, where have you been? And Credence says there's a corner on 32nd Street. And this is the point when Johnny and I, in the movie theater, at the same time, and this confirms we're our best friends because we make the same terrible bad jokes. There's a band called Credence Clearwater Revival, classic rock band. They have a song called Down on the Corner. Johnny and I, at the same time, in unison, without having pre-rehearsed this at all, we said to each other, we whispered, down on the corner. And then looked at each other, and in that moment, we knew. Friends forever.
You are my soulmate.
This is the second time Johnny and I have done this in a movie. When we saw Frozen, the first time we hung out in college, when Anna is talking with Elsa, and Elsa goes, "What's his shoe size?" And Anna goes, "That's not important." Johnny and I at the same time said, "Yeah, it is." So, yep, that's Johnny and I. So then Credence gets his own belt to get whipped with. So we're just really painting the picture that Mary Lou is bad.
We're just really going in on it. Oh.
So then, just to wrap it all up, we've got the Niffler pretending to be a necklace holder in a jewelry shop, which is very funny. All of the stuff with the beasts and the Niffler is very good, and I appreciate it. And this is something Kelly and I, as often what will happen, because I'm a night owl of sorts, is Kelly will usually go to bed before I do, and I will still work for like an hour or two after, just working on podcast stuff. And there's a fun game that Kelly likes to play, which is sneak out of the room and see how far she can get across the apartment without me seeing. And of course, whenever I do see her, she just stands perfectly still as if I'm not going to see her anymore. So the Niffler doing that thing where he just stands perfectly still as all of the jewels fall off of him, it was funny. And it might just be because my wife does this very silly joke to me, but I appreciated it.
It's just perfect. It's like, where would you put an animal that is obsessed with shiny things? Ah, yes, in the jewelry store.
Mm-hmm. It's just the movie we wanted. It's the Fantastic Beasts movie we needed.
Listen, all I'm saying is that it's the Niffler's world and we're just living in it.
Yeah.
It's the world I want to live in.
And Newt really showing how oblivious he is to everything. When he is getting the Niffler back, he knocks over everything possible in that store.
Again, get the Niffler first, fix it later.
Just throwing stuff aside. It's ridiculous, but it's a very fun scene.
I very much enjoy when he's on the ladder and they slam into the window and they both have that obvious comedic moment of looking at each other like, it's about to happen, and it just slowly starts to break. It's just so good.
It's really good. I also love when the cops eventually come and Jacob and the Niffler and Newt are all covered in jewelry. And Jacob goes, "They went that way, officer." It's so good. It's so good. Like all of these scenes with just Newt and Jacob and beasts getting into shenanigans, I loved.
Yes.
It's all fun. I want all of that.
Yes.
There should be a supercut of the film where you just delete all the parts that aren't that. And that'd be a way better viewing experience.
Just the beasts.
Just the beasts. Give me the Captain Crunch Oops All Berries. Give me the Oops All Beasts cut. Mm-hmm. No Credence stuff. No anything bad. No Obscurus. Give me beasts.
If you gave me 30 minutes of Jacob feeding the mooncalves.
Yeah. It could be like how they have around Christmas time all the different Yuletide burning fireplaces on Netflix. And there's like the Frozen one. And this was something on the 2001 DVD that I had for Finding Nemo, that they have one of them on Disney Plus now, which is like the Reef Cam. There was a whole bunch of them on the DVD of Finding Nemo that I had, where a bunch of different scenes, you just put them on. It's like a 20-minute loop, whatever.
Beautiful.
You could do that on, I guess, like Warner Brothers Plus whenever that comes out, because that's the world where it's just cable again. But you could have just Jacob feeding beasts, Newt and Jacob feeding beasts on a 20-minute loop. Sign me up.
Mm-hmm. I know it's going to happen, but when it does happen, when Universal does do a Fantastic Beasts themed ride, I just want it to be going into the suitcase and going into all of the different areas. That's all I want.
Now, what if petting zoo?
Also, sign me up. I've always been the person to say, all I want in life is an attraction at Disney World in Animal Kingdom where it's a room of 101 Dalmatians and you just let me sit there.
Wow.
Like, that's all I want.
That's really good. Just
let me pet the 101 Dalmatians.
That's very solid.
You will
very
just
solid.
time me out. Let me know when the time is up. I'll be putting my Fast Pass queue every day in for that.
So after the iconic line of "They went that way, officer," we see a lion show up. And I was like, why is a lion? And then remembered what happens next. It's that the Arumpin is in Central Park and has destroyed the Central Park Zoo because they're horny and they're looking to mate. As Newt says, the Arumpin is in season and it's looking for a mate. So Newt puts on some musk and does this absurd mating dance, which give Eddie Redmayne the Oscar just for that, because doing that when there's no other beast, green screen situation where you're just doing that, like that is some impressive stuff. And again, just these are the beast shenanigans I liked and I wished that the whole movie was.
It's all you want. at MistyCon, they did like a big lip sync night. And this is when Jason Derulo's hit Wiggle Wiggle or whatever that song was called first came out. And they just had someone come out as Eddie Redmayne and then a cardboard cutout of an Erumpent. And they just played that song. And it was just the dancing the entire time.
It's very good.
And it killed.
It's good. Yeah, I mean, I know they've had the wand choreographer come to LeakyCons, give me the choreographer who did that dance, and then you can just teach everybody that dance. I would sign up for that class. No question.
Yes.
No question about it. So you get this whole chase scene because Jacob is smelling the musk, and then a seal throws a fish at him, and it hits him in the back of the head, right? Or does the seal slap him? I thought he threw a fish at him, but I was taking notes.
There was a lot of chaotic stuff going on. We have the monkey that somehow gets the wand, and Newt is trying to give him a stick, and he's like, see, same thing. It's the same thing.
Not bad logic. I like that approach from Newt. Even if this is not what happens, no one correct me. I want to live in the world where a seal throws a fish at Jacob, but something happens to where he spills some of the musk on him, and then the Erumpent gets very excited and chases after Jacob. Big old chase scene throughout Central Park, which eventually ends with Newt getting the Erumpent trapped in the suitcase. And all I gotta say, again, I don't know what Central Park was like in the 1920s. I don't know how late it is at night. But the fact that there are 0 human beings in Central Park when this goes down is astounding. Unbelievable.
Which makes no sense, because earlier you also see the Erumpent somehow underwater, under the ice in Central Park, which also just never gets addressed. I mean, the entire Erumpent scene is just beautiful because it's so proud of itself when it like shoves its horn into the tree and it's like, look what I did. I'm so proud of myself. And the fact that we have Jacob in basically what I consider to be like keeper, like Quidditch keeper uniform in order to protect his fragile body. And then it just ends with Tina coming out and she's like, you know how I'm gonna trap him? I'm gonna sit on it. I'm gonna just sit. I got this.
The fact that there were no humans, you're right. As you said, we see a bunch of humans in the beginning, and then all of a sudden, no more humans.
They're gone.
Just completely unbelievable. And this is the kind of thing that if I was watching this movie and it was good, I wouldn't care. Because it's like, whatever. It's a movie about wizards. Let's just suspend disbelief. Whatever. But I'm already being critical of this movie. And Central Park is usually mobbed. It's a very, very big park. It takes up many, many, many blocks. So the fact that this chase happens all across Central Park, which is gigantic, and not a single person is like, hey, what's going on? Just felt so unbelievable to me. And what better place to end our first discussion of the Fantastic Beasts movie, the first one, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, not in this movie. So Lizzie, thank you for joining on. Thank you so much for lending the time and lending expertise. If people want to find you doing stuff on the internet, where can they do so?
You can find me on Twitter at Lizzie Sudlow, on Instagram at Lizzie Daphne Sudlow, Dafnee Sudlow. If you are a big Fantastic Beasts person or looking for a place to learn more about the series and listen to some nice critical discussions that also are still very into the fandom and all that fun stuff, you can check out SpeakBeasty. We're just basically everywhere with at SpeakBeasty.
Nice. I highly recommend whatever number episode I was on. I don't know it off the dome, but it was a good one. It was really good.
It was.
Lizzie, thanks again so much for joining. Listeners, thanks for listening. And as they say in the wizarding world of Harry Potter, before they eat some delicious Jacob Kowalski pastries, wizard on. Hey, you know that other podcast that I make called Meddling Adults, where I host and I have 2 guests go head-to-head to solve children's mysteries like Scooby-Doo and Encyclopedia Brown, and the winner earns money for a charity of their choosing? Well, season 3 of that podcast launches on February 3rd. If you're listening to this the day it came out, that means in 2 days! You can listen to that and all of the previous episodes wherever you get your podcasts or at meddlingadults.com. Potterless was created by Mike Schubert, it is hosted by Mike Schubert, it is edited by Mike Schubert, it is produced by Mike Schubert, as well as Vicky Garcia, Christine, Aaron Johnson, Klaus Lopu, Marchismo, Juan Sanfilio, Rosemary, Daj Marie, Lisa C. Keen, Audra, Eleanor Curlin, Nikita Power, Rachel Guthrie, Zachary Polito, Alex Consulver, John Cocker, Noel Basole, Claire Spencer, Rory Collier, Veronica Bartova, Lotta Bartova, Noah, Tracy Toya, Colleen, Jennifer Marklew, Justin Montero, Jacob Parrish, Maya Gray, Mark Body, Polly Burge, Zena Rosnowski, Harlan Haskins, Noelia, Nikki Harris, Kine, Amanda Alfred, Kafir Shaltiel, Sarah Shetter, Marta Morrison, Maya Florsake, Georgia Davis, Skylar Lilly, Adele Ryan, Professor Threat, Ellie Hoskovchova, Michael David Yordi, Kelly Otilio, Carrie Crumpler, Connie Bienkowski, Jen Went, Nedry OS, Will Huser, Marco Cepeda, Marique Rieger, Ashton Gabrielson, Brittany Gutierrez, Phelan, The Meadows Family, Ginny from the Block, Heather Langiel, Kevin Stewart, Jarls Fiven, Peter McGrath, Jan and Rose Daub, Callahan and Dara's, Leah Reed, Bella Barlack, Melanie Demi, Becca Spry, Reese Deignan, Adam Graham, Joseph Torp, Madison, Don't Call Me Nymphadora, Sabrina Balsiger, Sophia Loves Pigs, Farzan Jarabat, Melanie DeGrave, Matt Barger, Okamahime, Bony Pony, Kelsey Gillespie, Rike Mangor Jensen, Taylor Payne, Megan Moon, Riley Kiedis, Laurel Happy, Erica Butler, Miranda, Kendra Hertz, Natanya Page, Yogan Shanley, Darcy Alexandra Harrison, Sandra Rose, Craig McRoberts, Leor Nachum, Demi Lynn, Michelle Spurgeon, Henrika Wolf, Casey Canales, Magan Stempen, Zat, Jack Gitzes, Sophia Leone, Dane Nemcher, Robin Garcia, Chick Parr, Mermaid and her Daddykins, Ilaria Vicentin, Gregory Hughes, Caw, Mother Feathers, Nina Jazalik, Ribbon Monstrosity, Brittany Harper, Gavin Miller, Jack Parr, Serenity Allen, Emily Quinlan, Haley Hastings, Sabrina Casanova, Jenny Browers, Laura, Gila, Eileen Gazesh, Annette Pipitone, Kirsten R. Cunningham, Hufflepuff alumni, Brett Clausen, Mary Price, Artemis, Trans People Are People, Samantha McNamara, Nina Campley, Tatiana Schmidtova, Taylor Roberts, Karis Davies, Little Vomit Spiders Running Around, Tony Joe McHufflepuff, Punkfish, Wire Warrior 4976, Catherine Carolchak, Joe Sander, and Can't I Potter? Web design by Kelly Schubert, and the music is by Bettina Kampamanis. If you want to find us on social media, you can at facebook.com/Potterless, twitter.com/PotterlessPod, instagram.com/PotterlessPodcast, and reddit.com/r/Potterless. For any and all information about the show, you can go to potterlesspodcast.com. For bonus content, you can go to patreon.com/Potterless, and for merch, you can go to potterlesspodcast.com/merch. If you want to tell someone about the show, you think of someone who would like it, reach out to them directly, or post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review. All of those things help. Thanks again so much for listening, and until next time, as they say in the wizarding world of Harry Potter, wizard on!